Welcome to the workbench. For today's video, I want to show you some quick fixes for what I consider anyway, common lock issues. From sticky keys to spinning locks, I want to showcase some simple solutions so you can avoid paying out the nose, for right now anyway, and plan a more solid repair when you aren't in a total panic. First up, let's tackle a sticky key in a front door lock. Now, there's two types of locks currently on the market, cylindrical and mortise. Mortise are more pricey and complex, but tend to last a little bit longer, while cylindrical tends to be a little more user-friendly when installing and less costly, on average anyway. Let's start with a mortise lock with a sticky key. When your key gets stuck like this, you can push on the face of the lock, like so, and wiggle the key out carefully. Now that your key is out, let's remove the cylinder. So first you'll need to remove the faceplate, or armor front, of your lock so you can expose the cylinder retaining screw. Most mortise locks you'll find on homes, and some offices have two screws. Now you'll want to unscrew this screw right here that I've lit up with my flashlight so the cylinder can be undone. I prefer to use a key I obviously know doesn't work the lock in order to give me some leverage when unscrewing the cylinder. Now that we have the cylinder in our hands, we can finally see why the key gets stuck. Due to these two cam screws coming loose, the key can pull out the whole core. Because of this, when the key is stuck in the lock and you try to remove the key, you're actually pulling the whole plug out, and that's what's causing the key to get stuck. The simple solution? Tighten down these two screws. Do not strip them, because if you do, and a locksmith has to mess with your lock, they're probably going to quietly judge you. Well, if they find out you messed with the lock in the first place anyway. Shh. Now with the screws secure, let's put everything back. You'll want to use the wrong key again to help you get the cylinder back into the lock. Sometimes it may not want to go in easily the first time. I should know. You'll want to use the wrong key again to help you get the cylinder back into the lock. Sometimes it may not want to go in easily the first time, as for some strange reason, mortise cylinders can sometimes take on the characteristics of a USB drive. Sometimes you just gotta try 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Sorry, I was on a random little tangent right there. Once you have the cylinder back in and everything back on the door, test the lock out and make sure the key doesn't get stuck. Another thing that can happen is the set screw that I've been showing so far can come a little loose over time from the door vibrating and shaking. To fix this, realign the cylinder so it's correctly pointing in the right direction, then tighten the screw. Sometimes using a wrong key and wiggling the cylinder will also make sure the cylinder is seated right and won't wiggle when tightened down. Side note, don't practice on live locks. I can't stress this enough. There have been way too many times I've had to go out and do a repair just because someone was curious about how their front door lock worked. Please, if you want to practice on lock hardware, either buy one from a hardware store or preferably a reputable locksmith. And for some clarification, these example locks are just on displays. These are meant to represent doors. I'm not about to work on active doors because that's madness, unless it needs a repair. I'm not lazy at all. Now let's try the same issue, but on a cylindrical lock. These are the more common locks you'll find in most hardware stores. Now I'm going to demonstrate using the deadbolt because it's more common in this kind of lock versus a knob or a lever. It can still happen, but let's not get into the weeds about that. I'm going to remove these two small screws right here in order to expose the mounting screws for the actual cylinder itself. This is a slightly higher grade lock, but still serves the purpose of showing what needs to be done. Pay attention to how you take this apart, because how this long part is positioned is very important. Mark it with a Sharpie if you need to. So this is a bit different than Mortise locks, but the problem of the key getting stuck is pretty much the same. This time it's caused by a loose cylinder nut on the back. Loose cores can happen in locks, sometimes due to just worn out parts or someone being careless when rekeying a lock. I clearly don't ever mess up my rekeys. Nope, not me. Anyway, where were we? Ah, yes. So now that you have the back of the lock in your hand, you'll want to get either a paper clip or some kind of small pokey tool. You'll want to poke this part down. Then, at the same time, tighten the nut until it can't be tightened anymore. Now, back the nut off by one space, just so you don't cause a totally different and equal infuriating issue. Now let's reassemble everything back the way it was and test the key. Now, if we put everything back in the proper order, the key shouldn't get stuck anymore, and your lock should work normally. Let's talk about keys now. You may not know if your key is an original, but if it was made at a big box store or a kiosk, it definitely isn't an original. The unfortunate thing is, if you try to make a copy of a copy, it's just like if you made a photocopy of a photocopy, and we all know how well that turns out. Here's some ways you can tell if your key is causing you a little bit of trouble. A key that's been cut too shallow will have some slight impact sites from the pins hitting into it, and may feel very sticky and hard to turn. But it may still go. Now, deep cut keys are kind of hard to show on camera, just because you can't really tell a key is deep cut. A deep cut can be clicky and hard to get started, but once you turn it, it seems to be working fine. Now, off-spacing keys. These are the big box's specialties. To be fair, the machines I've seen and have had the displeasure of using back in the day don't really prevent this from happening. You can usually tell from the extra tooth on the end. I'm not able to replicate one because my machine is well calibrated. Off-spacing keys can sometimes require you to really fiddle with the key to finally get it to cooperate. My example right here, thankfully, pops right back out to where it needs to actually behave to work with the lock. The simple thing to do to fix a problem with your key is, honestly, just to head down to your local locksmith, have them decode the key, and make you a new original of the key. Making a new original can solve a lot of problems that come from just badly cut keys. And yeah, this also applies to car keys too. But don't be shocked at the price jump when you're starting to get into car stuff. The last thing I want to bring up isn't really something that's easily fixed, but easy to spot. Door sagging and warping. Being able to identify door sag can really save you some initial cost, because you really don't know how many jobs I've been to where the customer says the lock's not working, and it turns out the lock is actually fine, but the issue is caused by the door sagging or the frame moving due to the building settling. I have a couple of pictures that I'm showing you right now, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. You'll want to look at the door from a distance of about 5 to 10 feet. Look at the edges of the door. A properly hung door has an even line all the way around. A badly hanging door, or sagging, looks uneven or even catches on the frame. Unfortunately, there's not much that can be done on the cheap anyway, But if the door's warping, your money is better spent having a contractor or a handyman rehang it instead of calling someone like me out there and telling you that. These fixes are just a small sample of what the more common lock problems are. Each job has different factors, from environmental effects to people being, well, people. Just be mindful of what you're doing, take it slow, and know when to call in a professional. Hope this helps, and as always, stay safe and stay secure.